Today, we're going to be going over how to install a floor in your orbiter. So you guys can have a floor that looks just like this, or really any other type of floor that you want it to look like. I'm going to go over the pros, the cons, how much it actually costs to install this floor, and give you some tips and tricks so that it doesn't have to cost you more, because there is a possibility that you could overspend on the floor. Before we start building this floor, I do want you to know that you don't have to copy this exact design of the floor. You really could do it in any which way you want. And I want you to notice how this floor is a solid design, because you can see the reflection in the black part of the floor of what this part of the ship looks like. If it's not colored, it's some weird UI thing that they have going on where it reflects what the ship looks like when you don't have it colored. But you can kind of see it through the black parts of the floor right there. And it's all looking like one solid floor. This was a real pain in the butt to set up. But I'm going to show you how exactly I did it. And you don't have to set it up that way. You could do it tiled instead. But we're going to look for displays. So what I wound up using was a landscape display. And I'm going to grab a couple of these because I don't think I currently own any. Even though it says that, they're all installed right now currently. So I'm gonna buy about 4 of them, and we're gonna jump over to just me showing you an example. We're gonna go into equipment, we'll go to orbiter at the bottom here, and we're gonna go to decorate. So we're going to look for a display, and I want specifically that landscape display that we just bought 4 of. So the very first thing that you want to do is make sure that it is flat on the floor the way that you want it. And a lot of the floor, I just use the floor that's built here itself to kind of line up the image. When I lined this up, what I did was I looked for the edge and lined it up with this piece right here. So I'm going to leave an arrow on the screen. So I tried lining the corner up with the middle of this little indent right here. And then I used that as a bearing for the center of the floor, for the entire floor. Another thing too you could try is the surface snapping. So I could hit the F button here and it'll surface snap. By the way, all of this will work on controller. So if you guys are using that and you're on console, this will work here as well. Before you lay anything down, here's one important tip, is you want to scale this. So you want to make it as big as possible. It's very important that you do that, because if you don't, it's going to cost you a lot more platinum by not scaling these things up. As far as how much this costs, since I did buy landscape displays, which are large displays, and then I scaled them even bigger, this floor cost me approximately 615 platinum. There's about 41 displays all laid out on the floor here. From here, it's about 4 across, all the way down to here, there's about 20 total. 4 across, and then 5 rows deep. So there's about 20 right here for that part of the floor, meaning about another 21 for this other half of the floor here. And that's exactly how I set the floor up. So the image that I picked for that picture was this one right here with Ember. If I could find her right here, this fan art picture with Ember right here. So I basically just kind of reset everything, made the image as big as possible, and I did one of those like that. So I remember once you do this a few times, you're going to remember the specs that you've adjusted it to, and then you'll just be able to respec it every new image that you lay down. So I basically just kind of spec'd it like that. Let's say I think I went to 15 or whatever it was. And then for this one, I think it was probably just 0 where it is. So, and you could flip these horizontally, which I did on the other floor that I was showing you guys. So that's really how I did this. You could also mess around with the contrast of it to change the colors on it. If you want more of a blood look or a bleach, this is really going to help you mess around depending on what it is you're going for. So for those of you edgelords that like all black and white stuff, there you go, because that looks pretty good. But yeah, you get the point here. So I'm just going to leave that. And now once we have this, I'm going to duplicate the decoration. So I'm going to hit the F button here. I'm going to duplicate it. And the reason why I want to duplicate it is because, and I also want to overlap it like this. Do you guys see what it's doing right here? This is so important that you get it to do this, where it's like the image is all flickering on itself, because that is how I managed to get the entire floor to look like one piece is to get it to flicker like this. Okay. We'll kind of go into why in a second, but I'm going to go back to that Ember picture right here. Going to put it back to, I think I had it at 15. Oh, this is important. Scale the image first, like this, because otherwise these don't line up right. So that should be the first thing you do. And now that I have it lined up like this, all I have to do, I can just flip this horizontally and then boom, we got the look that we were going for. So now that I have this, clicking on the image, I didn't mean to do that. So this is really important. Every time you accidentally click an image, just hit the escape button to reset it. If you accidentally pick it up and move it somewhere, don't click it back into a new place that you moved it. Especially in scenarios like this where you have the overlapping and the flickering lines here. Because what I want to actually do is I want to do a constraint movement. There it is. So I hit the R button, I'm in constrained movement, and now you guys can see where it's at the bottom, near the bottom, where it says transform. It says world. If I hit the Z button, now it says local. This is very, very important. And I'm going to wind up hitting the escape to reset this afterwards. But the world view, a lot of times, does not let you go through the floor. However, the local view, a lot of times, does let you go through the floor. It's an extra bit of movement that you have. So... And now do you guys notice how, like, it's not flickering anymore? How it's either higher or lower? The reason why we want it flickering is because that means it's at the same level as the picture, which makes all the tiles you put down, all the landscapes, look like one solid piece. If we don't have it doing that, like right now, it looks like it's even, whether I go above or below it, whatever it is. Right now, it's not flickering, and that's going to cause a problem. It may not cause a problem right away, but it will cause a problem in the future. And then all I'm really doing is just kind of lining these up to make sure that they are, to the best of my knowledge, our movement. Yeah, I want this as lined up as possible. And then I'm just going to set it. Okay, so we lucked out on this one, but we are not always going to luck out. Okay, yeah, that's good. You can see the reflection of this over here through the black. I want you to look at the reflection through the black. The problem that we're going to face, the more and more that we do this, is that not all of these tiles are going to basically, how do I word this? They're not going to look like one piece. They're going to look like tiles. And that's such a pain in the balls, which is why I'm saying when you get these to flicker, when you're overlapping them, every time I laid these down, this is what I did. This is also really important to understand is we look at the axes here when we grab an image or really anything that you're trying to decorate with, whether it's any other decoration, no matter what it is. You have the X-axis, the Y-axis, and the Z-axis represented by the green, blue, and red arrows here. At the center of those arrows, underneath this image is like, imagine a focal point, but imagine that point is solid, and that solid point will refuse to go through anything that you're trying to get it to go through. There are ways to make it happen, but it's more advanced than really we need to know for this video. So just know that there is a solid point there. And a lot of the times when, let's say you want to go into local view and you want to get it to drop through the floor or below something, it may not work every single time because there might be like a slight thing that's in the way. And it could be like anything, even invisible things. It makes this such a pain in the butt to do this. But at the end of the day, just know that you could maybe shift it over a little bit and then try dropping it, or, you know, like just try shifting it any other way and then try dropping it. If you can't seem to get it below where you currently have it, if you have to pick the image up around and move it somewhere else to drop it, like whatever it takes, there's a way to get it done, but it's definitely not always the easiest thing to accomplish. So just keep that in mind. So, just going to leave it like that. All right. Now, I'm going to leave this on purpose just to see if we can get this. Do I want to do? No. All right. I'll leave that on purpose. Just, okay. Now, do you guys see how it kind of looks like a tile right here? Like how it's not, let me get out of decoration mode for a second. Yeah, okay, right here. Do you see this line that's happening right across here? Now it doesn't look like a tile, and the lighting that's reflecting through it is like off. It's not lining up. And personally, this made me angry every time. Like I wasn't a fan of this. This is the biggest issue that you're going to face, is getting these tiles to line up exactly the way that they need to be lined up so that you're not getting this like offset of light or a tile look out of this. And if you're going for the tile look, that's perfect. That's literally you. It's so going to be so much easier just to have a tiled look. If you want your floor to be a different color, all you're really doing is you're looking at all these pictures that are in here and you're kind of looking for a color or a design or a pattern or anything that you want your floor to look like. And please, please send me screenshots or whatever. You could like tweet them out to me. You can post them in my Discord, like whatever it might be. I think these are so cool looking and I would love to make a video of all the designs you guys have come up with. But you're literally just looking for patterns or colors or whatever it is that you want to work with. So let's say I wanted it to be blue instead. So I'll take this image. We'll make it a little darker blue here. I'm going to scale the image up and I'm going to find a section on this image where it has a pattern that I actually like. So we'll kind of just move this over here. So like even just her head, like I could even just do it with this, or I could just keep like flipping her head and it kind of look like a melon or a circle or whatever. I don't know. It's gonna look, it'll look weird, but it'll look cool at the same time too. So we could just leave this if we wanted to. We could just pick other pictures with like forest designs here. So I could just find a piece of the forest that I actually want to use and duplicate, if anything. So I could even take this if I wanted like a really bright green color. I could darken it too. You know, just messing around with these tones here. That is really hard to see some of these here. But anyway, you guys get the point. You can have all red floor. The pros to leveling, the pros to putting your floor down all in one piece like this is that you only ever have to do it once. Because once you've done this, I can grab any of these tiles on this floor and I can change it to any other picture I want. And that's going to be so much easier than laying the floor down in the first place. So once you lay the floor down, you can delete it, but I don't ever recommend you delete your floor because when you're installing it, you will realize how many more hours this is going to take than it really should for how simple of an idea it actually is. But unfortunately, with the design of how they set this up, it's really all we have to work with. I definitely recommend, just as another tip, as a final tip here, when you are placing these down, I'm just going to keep hitting the F button here. So this is the fourth one. This is like the last one that I have. Let's say, sure, I want to keep that. Instead of me exiting decoration mode, or instead of me buying way more floors than I you know, am going to need, and instead of me over purchasing, just hit F on the floor and it'll take you right to the purchase section. But then here's another interesting thing it's going to do. So I purchased this. It gives me the floor, but let's pretend that I didn't actually, here's one example. It gives me the floor, but the floor is not scaled after, this is after I buy it. The floor is not scaled, which means I have to rescale the floor. And also the other thing too is I don't think it's going to give me the image. Like if I picked one of these and bought it, I'm definitely needing more of these anyway. Let's do this as an example. So I'll purchase another one here. Purchase. Yeah, that's my point. My point is that it doesn't copy the metrics of whatever you laid down. Like whatever the design you gave it originally, it doesn't copy that. So even though I copied the fire floor, it gave me this image instead to work with. So that's fine. The point that I'm making here is this is still how you're better off buying extra tiles, because all you really have to do is just hit the escape button after you've bought the tile and then re-hit F to duplicate it. So then you have your size lined up. So whatever, like, you know, whatever size you scaled this to, it's going to be lined up to. I hope all this made sense. I know so many of you have been asking like how I laid the floor down, and I'm not necessarily a pro designer or like especially a pro explainer of how to design floors and all that sort of stuff, but that's how I did my floor. I hope you guys found this helpful. If you do have any questions, I am live every day on Twitch, and you guys can come down and ask any questions about that. The next video I'm going to make is basically how I did a mural here, because I want to put murals up along, I want to make this whole wall a mural, and then I want to, just like I did this little cubby here, I made mural in the background, I want to do it to these other 3 cubbies too, and that's kind of where I'm standing right now, is what I want to do with the rest of this. But that video will come out soon enough, and hopefully, again, you guys, if you have any questions, just stop by, ask. I'm live every day. Thank you for hanging out. I will see you guys in the next one.